Hey, it's Avengers Doomsday time, and we're doing not the Avengers theme, we're doing the X-Men theme, because we just got an X-Men trailer for an Avengers movie coming out in 2026. What a time to be alive, or maybe a terrible time to be alive, depending on your perspective. In regards to this, I'm Ewan, this is Josh.
Hello, Ewan.
This is Whatculture, and we're going to dive into the brand new teaser that Marvel has just dropped for Avengers Doomsday. Now, we've already had two before this. We had a Captain America one, which leak-a-roonied everywhere. We had a Thor one, which also leak-a-roonied everywhere. And I do believe that this one also did the old leaky, tweaky.
It did.
But it's here now in crisp HD. And yeah, lots of interesting thoughts to kind of dive into here. It's only a brief snippet showing off Magneto and Professor X, a lovely narration from our good old Patrick Stewart. In a new costume, which looks sick as hell.
Yeah.
Before getting a final tease, a great shot of the man who has waited so long for justice in the comic book universe of live action continuity, James Marsden as Cyclops in his actual costume, and he's getting the spotlight in an X-Men trailer, which is just...
Listen.
That, you know, I've been on record saying I'm really anxious about Avengers Doomsday. I'm still very anxious about Avengers Doomsday. I disagree with its existence on principle, purely as a Doctor Doom guy, and I don't like this Robert Downey Jr. nonsense that's going on here. However, this does tickle my X-Men brain in nice ways.
You know what? If there's one thing I've learned doing this job for as long as I have, it's to never cross Cyclops fans. Cyclops fans are the most die-hard comic book fans out there, and they've been waiting a long time to see this version of the character in particular, the James Marsden version, done justice. And I think even from this snippet, it's what a lot of people wanted. You mentioned the costumes there. It's so cool to even see that one glimpse of Cyclops in these costumes. I do think if there's one cheat code that the MCU or the modern MCU likes to roll out when it comes to their X-Men characters, it's getting those comic accurate costumes and those comic accurate moments. You and I think generally, I'm a little bit higher on, in fact, I think I'm a lot higher on Avengers Doomsday than you are. I am kind of secretly incredibly excited for this film and have been since they announced Robert Downey Jr. as coming back as this version of this universe as Doctor Doom. I understand on paper, right, why that might be a bad idea.
I feel seen, that you see me.
I see you, I do, and I understand and I respect the arguments against it. I'm still really looking forward to it.
This is our own version of the games, the elaborate games of chess that Professor X and Magneto have in, and called back to in this trailer, really.
Nostalgia heavy.
I'm glad that you're looking forward to it. I must admit that in the teasers revealed so far, there has been a part of my brain that has kind of been whisked back to the pre-pandemic times where things were simpler and the Infinity Saga was chugging full steam ahead. And while those movies had their issues, we were all in that roller coaster ride together in the fast lane, got the roof down, and then we got all the way to Avengers Endgame, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And I remember distinctly back in the day covering the Avengers Endgame trailers and being so imperiled, like, oh my God, what if they hurt my boy, Captain America? I was so worried and stressed out about that. And with that Thor trailer the other week, I was also like, why? I didn't even see Thor Love and Thunder. And now I'm really anxious about Chris Hemsworth's. So there's very clearly a big amount of historical baggage, context, call whatever, that we have invested into these characters that they can leverage in a smart way. Now, I think it's interesting here that obviously, you know, they're pulling from the Fox stable of characters, and I think on paper, all this does look like a gigantic cynical exercise, because it's like, we have all these bags of goodies, we're gonna pull it, we're gonna reach in the hat, it's James Marsden Cyclops. However, I am a big old slut for the X-Men, so you do that, I'm gonna be there. I was there for all of X-Men 97, which obviously was amazing.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to a new interpretation of the X-Men as well. But by and large, I just think this is a really cool piece of, I mean, it remains to be seen, given the movie isn't out yet, but for this teaser itself, it works for me. I love seeing the Sentinels, I love seeing the Jim Lee costume, I love seeing the optic blasts widened at their most peripheral, and you are right as well, Josh Brown. Cyclops does have his shooters, and there may or may not be a Cyclops shooter trained on us right now, which is why we're so effusive about Cyclops. No, I do sincerely like Cyclops, so I'm very excited about this.
No, absolutely, and look, like you said, I can see why people would be cynical, and you can see the cynicism in the trailer quite clearly. You mentioned that one moment where they're playing the chess game, which obviously harkens harkens back to so many images of these two characters, especially the Fox versions of the characters, and you can just point at that and say, nostalgia play. You know, you can say that bringing these characters back, giving them the authentic costumes that they might not have had in the Fox series, is the nostalgia play. They're using these older characters that we have these decades worth of attachments to, and the actors, rather than focus on some of the multiversal characters they've introduced over the past 5 years because of nostalgia, because we have that pre-investment in them. That said, it could go terribly wrong. They are taking those big swings, like you mentioned as well. Steve Rogers coming back. But with these Avengers movies, there's always been a level of sincerity to them, I think. And I say that not even as a Russo brothers fan. Like, I like their MCU work, but if you look at their wider body of material, they kind of are everything I dislike about modern cinema. But I do think they bring a sincerity to this material that hopefully shines through here. There's a lot of risks going into it. The casting of RDJ, bringing back a beloved character that had an ending like Cap, and of course bringing back these Fox characters, and who knows else, you know, later on down the line. But I can't deny being excited. I can't deny hoping that they have learned the lessons of the multiverse saga, and they're bringing back the stakes, they're bringing back that emotional depth, and more importantly, bringing back that sincerity. And I think you saw that particularly in the Thor trailer as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the other thing about this as well is, like, we're talking about, it's an easy hit for Marvel to basically go, here's Cyclops in his classic costume, but it does kind of emphasize the shortcomings of the Fox movies. I know there's a lot of nostalgia for them. I grew up with those movies. X2, I still really, really enjoy, but by and large, those movies fumbled the bag spectacularly in so many different ways, and not, you know, looking at one of the most colorful corners of the Marvel Comics mythos and going, does it come in black? And not the cool black, we're just going to put them in really bad leather. And you have that infamous line in the first X-Men movie where, you know, Cyclops says, would you prefer yellow spandex? And lo and behold, you're in the yellow spandex now, Cyclops. The boot is on the other foot, and you get him the spandex treatment. But yeah, there's also some plot implications here. Obviously, we talked about, you know, the narration from Charles Xavier talking about, you know, the ideas of death. This looks like it could be a fourth Professor X death hitting the Marvel Universe moment, which...
4 Professor X deaths, Ewan.
I remember being so jarred while watching Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness in the cinema, and just his little collapse onto the X chair. That was really...
There's a lot of things I wish they hadn't done in the Multiverse saga, and I think wasting that reappearance of that character in this universe was one of them. I think this trailer, even though it does hit, would have hit so much more if we hadn't already seen a version of this character already appear and get bumped off once again, especially after we've seen that character get bumped off so many different times with differing levels of sincerity. And you mentioned there, like, the plot implications. It is going to be interesting to see if this is the Fox timeline. What is the Fox timeline at this point? How long will these characters stay around? Like, we are mentioning Cyclops here, but he is doing that optic blast in front of what appears to be a burning X mansion with sentinels closing in. Is that a version of Cyclops, and then we're getting a different version of Cyclops as a main character? I don't know where this is going to go. That's kind of part of the excitement. But I know there's a lot of worry online, perhaps, that the Fox X-Men characters are being brought back to quite quickly get bumped off again, and then we focus on different Marvel characters for Secret Wars, for instance. Obviously, that's just speculation right now, but the state of things teased by this trailer, it's not happy, put it that way.
Yeah, I just want to add one other thing as well before we wrap up the video. There's been lots of speculation online. I read a really good article by Polygon earlier on today talking about how in each of the appearances of Doom so far, and each of the teasers so far, we've been dealing with the idea of children. So obviously the X-Men is all about, you know, Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. There's probably a reason why Cyclops is freaking out so much at the end of that trailer, and I don't think it's just because we've got a timeline here with the Sentinels and Days of Future pasting their things all over the place, or Days of Future pasting their things all over the place, let's be real. But, you know, obviously at the end of Fantastic Four, Doom shows up and is talking to Franklin Richards, the son of, you know, Sue and Reed. We have the Captain America teaser where he's holding his child. Thor's talking about his child being in peril. there's a very clear theme here going into the future and children being in peril, and I did not expect the turn of Doctor Doom becoming the child catcher in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you know, maybe they'll make it work, who knows?
No, 100%. They're definitely involving the next generation and the children of these iconic characters within this story in some way. You know, like you mentioned there, all of those different characters. We obviously didn't know that Steve had a child. That was revealed in the teaser. But you mentioned there the introduction of Thor's kid in Love and Thunder and
Franklin.
Franklin, that's the name I'm looking for.
It's a very memorable name.
It is, I know, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. What can I say? There's been a lot of trailers. Yeah, Franklin in Fantastic Four, given huge importance, and I quite like that. Sometimes I always worry that younger characters are brought in, like the children of an iconic hero, and they're just kind of wasted. They don't feel like real people. That kind of happened a little bit with Thor, Love and Thunder, and in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, we also get another child character introduced. So it's like they have been setting the seeds like this, and I wonder if this is the way for them to kind of make the multiverse saga count, at least in part, to be saying like, look, we introduced a lot of ideas across the past 5 years, and this is one that you might not have expected to have such repercussions on this massive scale, but it clearly is, and it's very of a piece with the trailers that have been released so far.
And I will say as well, you know, obviously Avengers Endgame was a largely satisfying conclusion to the Infinity Saga that has been steadily undermined in the years since. I do wonder if the Russos coming back for Doomsday and Secret Wars, they are more conscious of this postscript than ever before.
Yeah.
And if we're going to do like an actual, you know, this is the real ending for this era of Marvel, we're going to do it right this time. Maybe the way they do that is by, you know, burying those characters that we were so attached to and going, this is the new generation. So that could be a thing. But I want to know what everyone's thoughts are on this new Avengers Doomsday teaser down in the comments below. How are you feeling about the X-Men's presences? Are you looking forward to another Professor X on-screen death? Let me know, you sickos. I am very curious to hear if people are not as also traumatized by this as I am.
Should we start taking like bets on how he's going to die in this one? He's exploded. He's been killed by a clone.
Yep.
He sort of slumped over in Multiverse of Madness. Where can we go in the bastion of Professor X deaths?
They're going to give him hair, and he's going to die from hair trauma.
I like it. A hair transplant gone wrong.